Saturday, finally Saturday, and guess what? The champ is here, and I never left because I was here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and now Saturday. But check it out. This radio show is the best radio show from Como to the Congo. And to prove that, we even have somebody from Fort Worth who came here to see us show you how we are. Loved by many, hated by a few, respected by all, we're second to none. We're doing all of this all day long, 24/7, 25/8, because we have another hour and another day that they didn't know anything about. So today we're talking about making Tarrant County blue, turning it blue. That's what we want to do. So we have Tracy Scott, who's running for state representative, I believe it's District 92.
Yes.
Because it's true. So Tracy, what's going on?
Hi, thank you so much for coming.
All right, okay.
Thank you for inviting me. How have you been?
I've been all right. I've been all right.
Doing well, yeah.
Yeah, you been fine?
Yeah.
I see you in your blue and everything.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any red in your?
I do. I look really good in red, so I
You
wear
look
red
really good in
often.
red? Okay.
Yeah. I'll have on red tonight. It's the Lunar
Okay.
New Year.
It's the Lunar New
Yeah,
Year?
Lunar New Year celebration, and
Okay.
red is the color. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've known you for a couple of years, and we've been electing people, and now you are on the other side of the ballot.
Yes.
So tell us about yourself and what you're running for.
I am running for Texas House District 92. It is a redrawn district through the past legislative special session of the redistricting process. It is a district that runs from 183, taking in the HEB community to the county line, and then coming straight down 360. Riding both sides of 360, a little bit of Tarrant County and Grand Prairie, and then
Grand
Tarrant
Prairie.
County. Okay. Yeah, we have GP, and then we also have Arlington, and then a small piece of Fort Worth. So, it's a really diverse community. It is, tons of working families, middle-class families. When the district was drawn and, we were having a community conversation about who was running, I kept looking at that district and going, I feel this. This is where I come from. These are, the families that I've grown up with, heck, my family. And I thought it was a great time for me to run to represent working families, especially since we're having so much trouble. We're having, the burden of all this crazy legislation that's coming out. So I decided I would run. I grew up Muslim. I'm a single mother.
You grew up what now?
I grew up Muslim.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I grew up Muslim. I practiced Islam until my teens.
Really?
Yeah. My parents still practice Islam.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I came to the show because I didn't know that.
Yeah. No. I was raised Orthodox Muslim.
Have you been getting any pushback for that?
No.
In a country that's supposed to be, religious tolerance and everything?
No, not at all. No. And actually, District 92 has a large Muslim community. So, I thought, I'm relatable. I understand. When I was younger, my family was the house when immigrants came over to get themselves established in the U.S. They stayed with us. So I, grew up with families from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and, Iran. It was really I grew up with a rich history, rich childhood, very much so.
So we'll get through this, inshallah. Yeah. So
Yes,
God
we will.
willing, that's
God willing, yes,
we'll
we
get
will.
through this.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. So most people when they hear Muslims, they say Assalamu alaikum, and that's all they know. And
Right.
That's it.
Yes.
You go like, okay, that one, everyone knows that one.
Right.
So
yeah.
like saying I speak Spanish and you say gracias, and
Right.
everybody knows that. You say something else other than that. So okay. And then you know what you're talking about. So
Right.
inshallah, God willing, we'll get through this.
Yeah.
Okay. God willing, will we get through this pandemic, and God willing, will we get through these times that we're in now? It's not just a pandemic, it's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot. Yeah. The pandemic kind of just, put a spotlight on, how fast we were moving and all the things that we have been, striving for and working really hard at and not getting very far. A lot of people, especially in this campaign, talk about the American dream, and I think that that's just you look at our district, and it's the medium income is $55,000. You look in Arlington, graduation, I think it's like 80% of the students graduate, but
might be closer to
80% of the students graduate, but only 30% go to college. So that American dream, I think COVID and the pandemic and having the shutdown really kind of put a spotlight on our lives and had us examine, what this looks like and how we were going to move forward.
Now, how has the pandemic affected your campaigning? I know I asked a candidate yesterday about how do you put your your push cards out. How do you do that?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of lit drops for sure, but there are people who are answering the door. I have really been surprised and thankful for the number of people that are answering the door. Even with the ring, I put my card up and say I'm running, and the next thing you know, somebody,
okay.
Yeah, and people answer the door.
But that's one good thing for Ring, though.
Yes,
you put
it is.
That out there, you go, okay, I know who's there.
Yeah.
So you go to a house and it may be you got a sign say Trump on there, and they go like, I don't know what, I don't want to answer that one. Yeah. But
Test.
Your district, what is the demographics of your district? How's that? Because through gerrymandering, you probably running in a district that was, you just said earlier.
Yeah, it was redrawn. The number was a Republican district, and it had a different shape, different demographic.
Who was in that area before that?
It was Kaysen. Jeff Kaysen was a representative for 92. And then once the redistricting process happened and they pulled Dems from other districts, packed them in 92, and it became a Democratic seat. So it's an open primary.
And this guy was the individual that was representing that district before.
92. He's out. He said he's not running again.
Okay, I wonder who he made mad. Because they normally when they don't, they do that. I mean, when you gerrymander a district and they make it difficult for you
try to save
to win.
Yes.
And you're the incumbent. Mm-hmm. You really have made somebody mad.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I don't.
I don't know.
Yeah,
we just have to ask the Republicans.
I know they saved themselves. They guaranteed themselves wins in other districts, other surrounding districts.
Okay.
By moving, Dems out.
Okay.
So.
We want to make sure that everybody that's tuned in right now, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and call in. The call-in number's down there because we want to make sure that everyone's able to get an opportunity to talk if they want to. But this is kind of crazy around here because this beautiful stadium that we are in right now, Ballpark Way, we're about to be moved out. Yep, about to be moved out. Did you have any difficulties getting in?
Just a little security guard downstairs, but that's okay.
Hey, the security guard again? He did that yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
He did that yesterday.
It was a little challenge,
Yeah.
But we made it.
We had a guy that was running for Congress yesterday, and it's like, he said, hey, I can't get in, and it's like, okay. I mean, that's crazy, but, So when we're talking about security, we also talking about, service and policemen, real policemen. Mm-hmm. Could you give me your deal on policemen and Black Lives Matter? Let's talk about that.
Oh, necessary movement, definitely. Necessary, 100%. Bringing consciousness is always a good thing, and make sure that we announce and scream and, make sure that we're loud from the streets on the realities of Black life and how we're living, 100%. I mean, Black Lives Matter has definitely just changed the trajectory of America, and brought forth a lot of conversations that were difficult. I'm a part of a book club, and it's been one of the most rewarding things that I've been a part of. And it's a group of multicultural women. We've read books on race, and we have conversations that are honest. And I think that is in part due to Black Lives Matter and the conversation, I guess I could say the movement. But it's difficult conversations, but we're honest enough to have them, and willing to do the work. So, yeah.
So what book are you reading now? I'm reading Project 1619.
Look, I just bought it.
Okay.
I just bought it. Haven't cracked it. Okay. Yes.
Okay. You sound excited. That's
okay.
Yeah.
I am. I'm excited, but I haven't cracked the
I downloaded it this morning.
Okay. Yeah. I did the Audible too, but I normally listen to Audible on car rides, so I haven't been traveling back and forth to Houston lately. So I haven't been able to do the Audible.
Okay.
I'm jumping in and out of the car quickly these days, campaigning.
So how many hours of sleep you get?
In the beginning it was, 4 or 5. I'm up to about 6, 7 now.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to really, bring that down and make sure that, I had life after this campaign and, health. So, I'm up to 6, 7 hours a night.
So you helped a lot of people get elected to office before.
I've definitely tried, yes.
And you have a coalition. Tell us about the coalition that you were part of.
Oh, so I have the Black Women's PAC, which is a political action committee that my sinuses are bothering me, so excuse my blinking. But I have a political action committee, the Black Women's PAC, and it's helping elect Black women across the state get elected, and also raise the consciousness of political infrastructure and the power in voting. Then there's the Texas Coalition of Black Democrats, or Tarrant County Black Democrats, which I'm really closer to, and I'm a member of the board. And we're working to turn Tarrant County blue and increase Black voter turnout.
That sounds good. What do you think about President Biden's potential selection of the Supreme Court of the United States new justice? He says he's going to be an African American woman. That's what he says.
Yeah.
He's not going to renege, obviously.
No. That's one of the missions for the Black Women's PAC. That's part of our initial statement, is to have a Black woman on the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. And through the coalition and the Black Women's PAC, we made a list of candidates back in 2018 that we have shared, across the country, so that the list was there before the promise was made. So we've been ready for this for a long time, and look forward to seeing, our sister up on the Supreme Court.
Well, I would hope that we would have an African-American woman on the Supreme Court to keep Clarence Thomas in line. Just put him in check.
Let's just let her be. Let's let her hold her own before we assign her to somebody. Okay?
No. Get him in check, because the last time around there was a vote, it was like 8-1. He was the one. He is the one. Yeah. Absolutely. The others were like, hey, okay, we're with this.
Yeah.
Justice Thomas, okay, I'm against. I'm like, all of us are with this. You have cover now. You can say, yeah. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it.
Different things happen in political spaces. When you're not in the room, you don't know what the deal was, what happened, what the conversation was. And I think that that's the point of having a Black woman on the Supreme Court. I think that's the point of having more Black women elected to public office, is, having our voice in the room. And, when the conversations are had, that they're up and up on the table, just, with compassion. But yet the rule of the law.
Rule of the law. All right, we're going to take a couple of breaks. We have some drops. I believe Alec has the drops there in the file. But one of the things you can do as well is you can tune in, Ed Grade 1906 on Twitter, Ed Grade 1906 on Instagram. I know Tracy Scott's on there as well. Give them your handles on there.
Tracy for Texas on all social media platforms.
On all social media platforms.
Yes.
All right, we'll be right back.
What's good, y'all? This is J Kid with Hip Hop Now Radio, broadcasting every Friday night from 9 to 11 p.m., showcasing unsigned local and worldwide talent, live at Globe Life Park in Arlington, Texas, at Fishbowl Radio Network. Y'all know what's going on. Not to brag, but I'm cut from a different cloth. I made my own team. I am the boss.
Hey, how you doing? This is Ed Gray of the Commish Radio Show. Stay tuned and tune in and be up to speed on everything in social justice, human rights, and politics on the Commish Radio Show, airing every Saturday, 5 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Jump in.
This is attorney Kim T. Cole of K. Cole Law, PLLC. When I'm not fighting for civil rights and social justice, I keep it locked to Ed Gray on the Commish Radio Show.
Hi, this is Dominique Collins. I am the judge of Criminal District Court number 4 in Dallas County. I'm also the judge of your Dallas County veterans, serving veterans all over the Metroplex. And when I want to know what's in the hearts, minds of Dallas County, I listen to the Commish Radio Show.
Look what you've done to me. I never thought I'd be like this until
Good afternoon. This is Aisha Redmond, candidate for judge of the 160th District Court. And when I'm in the DFW area, I love listening to the Commish Radio Show between 1 to 3 on Saturdays. Vote Aisha Redmond for judge.
Thelma Clardy. I am running hard to be your next judge of the 302nd Family District Court of Dallas County. And when I'm not working or running for this office, I take time out to listen to.
Good afternoon. This is Aisha Redmond, candidate for judge of the 160th District Court. And when I'm in the DFW area, I love listening to the Commish radio show between 1 to 3 on Saturdays. Vote Aisha Redmond for judge.
Commish radio show back again, and we have the most slamming drops. I organize these drops, pick all of the music like that. And I was telling Alec in the background, I'm like, it's playing the old classic one with Thelma Clardy on there. She's running for judge. She's not, but we have all of our drops that we've done. We even have drops from John Crusoe. So I want you to find that one as well, because he's on the ballot. We want to make sure that we are up to date with people who are on the ballot. But you've heard some of the classics. So we got classics and we got new stuff as well. So we got John Crusoe coming up. I know you can find that one. But what you need to find is your voter registration card. I believe the last day to register for it is when?
January 31st.
January 31st. See, I just walked right into that one, didn't I? January 31st, which is around the corner. You know what I'm saying? So, you need to go ahead and make sure you find that, because January 31st is a national holiday. It's Ed Gray birthday eve. It's like Christmas Eve, but it's not a holiday. Ed Gray birthday eve is January 31st. So you have that opportunity on Ed Gray birthday eve to register to vote.
Celebrate Ed Gray's birthday by registering to vote.
Well, yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I told you it's all about me, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I did say it in the break.
That's for a cause.
Yeah, it's for a cause.
See how you tied that together?
It's for a cause. It's for a cause. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the causes that you about. You broke it down. You got 4 causes here, and we're going to go ahead and go straight to the point, because I know you've been block walking and all that, right?
Yeah, I'm going out and hit a couple more doors too when I leave.
Okay,
yeah.
So let's go ahead and go with it. Well, first of all, you say you're a mother, small business owner, community leader. We already know all that. How many children you have?
Just one. Just
Okay.
one. Yeah, it went great the first time, so we just, stuck with the one. She's 22. She just graduated from University of Houston in 2021. Yeah, and she is in Houston, making her life,
Okay.
starting her life, living it well, happy. Yeah.
Now, small business owner and community leader. Talk to us about that.
I have a consulting firm, so POC Connect, and I am consulting with community engagement projects, political candidates, and organizations. Just kind of connecting the community to what is a good resource, what they need, and then also making sure that they're politically active.
How long have you done that?
Actually, all my life. I just
All your
started the
life?
consulting firm, in 2020. So, but that's been the, background of what I've done, through healthcare, through small construction, just a number of things. I've done municipal government. Always the underlining has always been connecting people to the resources they need to live a healthy and sustaining life and succeed.
So that's where the community leadership comes in.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, community leadership, even through my daughter's school. I moved here to North Texas from Houston. And in Houston, I did a lot of different things, belonged to a lot of organizations, and, just kind of worked with the community, since way back. But, moved to North Texas 13 years ago, raised my daughter. She went to Young Women's Leadership Academy in Fort Worth. She was part of the first class, so I was part of the first parent class. Organizing the parents and working with the school to help it, thrive and keep connected and build a family atmosphere. And we did a really good job. Those are really good girls that have graduated from that school.
Cool. All right, now, you say as our next state representative, and oh, by the way, what we will do, we will go ahead and put this up where you can see this on the Ed Gray political page. If you're listening to us right now, join that page as well, because we're at our 5,000 on the regular page, so that's the reason why we have the Ed Gray political page. So join it and invite others to join it as well, and Ed Gray, the Commish Radio on YouTube. So that being said, last year, it was last year, when it was so cold out there.
Yeah.
It wasn't the month of May. The Temptations was there. So, but
That might not have made a difference.
but the
Climate
grid
change
was,
is real.
it was jacked up.
Yeah.
How can you fix the grid?
Yeah. I think, the mechanics of fixing the grid, we leave that to the experts. But I think in the legislature, we can make sure that, the buck doesn't, the transparency and communication between the entities and organizations that actually manage that whole structure have better communication and, are accountable. I think that, the governor's office has seemed to be the last stop for knowing what was happening. And I think, that was the last stop. So transparency is what we can do. We can actually make sure that it's transparent what's happening with the grid when someone, is saying, oh, this part doesn't work or that part, and that's just making it very simple, but making sure that the communication between entities is clear.
And I think it was crazy when it was colder a couple of weeks back, and they said, well, the grid didn't fail us. It wasn't as cold as it was when the grid did, and it didn't last as long. Like one day, like in Texas, anything happens is one day. It's like, oh, but they were bragging on it. The grid didn't fail.
Well, yeah, and
of
that's
course it
kind of,
didn't fail.
well, that's likened to you get in your car and you make it to work and you go, oh, my car didn't break. But does that make you feel secure?
Well, have you ever had a car that was like,
yeah.
you need to buy a new car.
Yeah,
And
but that make you feel, you were like, phew.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
That's what you do.
So but you're still on pins and needles about driving home,
you have that one tire you need to fix. But you're gonna stretch it out.
Yeah, you can't say, oh,
Yeah.
Let's hear about the real issue and really what's the plan moving forward.
Now, helping families bounce back from COVID-19. We talked about earlier about how you are able to campaign with that. We had our mask on early, we social distancing and all that and everything.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Recovery looks like increasing minimum wage. Recovery looks like, just making sure that families have the resources they need. When the grid went down, the Texas Workforce Commission went down as well. There was a big problem with the, software that they were, not software, but the technology that they were dealing with. It was antiquated.
Now,
just
you
making
said
sure.
Texas Workforce Commission went down?
Unemployment.
Oh, the unemployment?
Unemployment,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that was a really tough deal. And that went on for months. They had to really catch up. So just making sure that, state departments are up to date in technology and able to provide the resources that are available to, Texans. That's really part of the recovery. The struggle is getting through the system. And, healthcare. We've got to increase Medicaid. I mean, we've got to get, it's fiscally irresponsible for us not to increase this, not to expand it. Not to make sure that everyone has, health care, or at least access to quality and affordable health care.
So how does Medicaid work in the state of Texas? You have to opt in, or how does that work?
Yeah, you apply, you opt in, you fill it out, and if we can expand it, gosh, I wish I remember, I just read it the other day, if we can expand it, there's something like 60% of the adults in the state will have access to health care. And, we're number 47 in healthcare.
47?
Yeah, we're number 47 in
out
the U.S.
Out of 50 states.
50, yeah.
Including the District of Columbia, which should have voting rights as anyone else. And we'll talk about voting rights in general, but in the District of Columbia, they don't have voting rights. I know some folks say they can vote for president, but they can't vote for nothing else with me, like the Senate or the House of Representatives. So, this deal here about
the recovery is a big deal. I mean, we're all looking at, people not wanting to go back to work, masks, and now we've got a new variant. It just keeps multiplying. And
what do you think about people not wanting to go back to work? Everyone can find a job. It seems like they wants a job right now.
Yeah.
You can pass by restaurants, specifically restaurants, and say hard.
Yes.
Restaurants are even closing early.
Yes.
Or it's only drive-through after a certain period of time.
Yes, I have visited those restaurants. I don't know what's in the minds of, the people who do not want to work. But I mean, if you're gonna say you can get COVID and you can get, and die, you have the vaccine, you can still get sick. then you get your family sick, and people don't want to wear masks. And, it's just the list of things. But honestly, I do not know why there's people don't want to work. But you can read all the stories in the news, and watch all the TikToks. And
you on TikTok too?
I'm not on TikTok. No, no, I do not know how to.
Oh, you're not.
I don't know how to create a TikTok.
Yeah, I'm not
no,
gonna do TikTok.
no.
Okay.
But I do watch TikToks.
You do watch it?
Yeah,
I watch TikTok
TikToks.
too.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, but why people don't want to go back to work, I don't know. But my personal opinion is that COVID. When we shut down in 2020, people got an opportunity to look at how hard they were working for how little they were getting. People got an opportunity to look at how stressed out they were, how noisy their life was.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Because at that time, I just recently retired, and at the time that I was working, half the time I spent at work, it was telling someone, put your mask on. Mm-hmm. I don't want to wear my mask. I'm tired of wearing my mask.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And I told
Why
him,
do I have to
said,
wear a mask?
Yeah.
The state says I don't have to.
I said, look, I'm telling you that our
Right.
company says you have to wear the mask. I said, I personally don't care whether or not you wear a mask or not. But for 8 hours,
Yeah.
wear the mask.
Wear the mask. I mean,
That's all.
teachers are facing that, and teachers and students are facing that in the classroom. We've got a shortage of teachers right now. Not only because, wearing the mask is a problem, parents are a problem, and then they're getting sick.
Yeah, so how can we
And-
support our teachers?
Wow. We can raise the pay. We can raise their pay. I don't know if that brings them back to work or not. We've really got to look at, who we're being, who we are as people.
I think teachers are grossly underpaid.
Grossly underpaid.
They
I can
deal
agree with that completely. And they've had a raise that only brought them up, to, a standard of living. It did not provide any kind of extra, which life is now extra. How do you, when you were working 2 jobs or 3 jobs to be able to, live, and you're a teacher, and now you only have to work 1 extra job. I don't think that's, that's not increasing your pay. That's not what we were talking about. Allow teachers the comfort of financial stability. If they spend more time with your kids than you do, then we should certainly advocate for them to get paid well enough to be flexible, to be, in a good space, in a good place, to actually have, be available to provide those services to our kids without stress and strain and worry,
So
burden.
in District 92, there are obviously schools as it is all across the districts. And how can you work with the individual school districts? What could you do for them down in Austin?
So local control is an interesting thing, but
I've seen that before because people go to the school board meetings and start shouting and yelling at the school board trustees.
You want the ISDs to be able to choose, be able to, regulate their own space. When you go across the state and you say, oh, you don't have to wear a mask, but you're not looking at, kids in a classroom all day long with, an educator. And, then kids go home, they play together, they have, recess, all of that happens. And then you go back into the classroom. So you're passing on, all kinds of stuff. We know for ages that kids are messy. Kids are unconsciously, just being free in the world without thinking of germs and passing on any kind of pathogens. But I think that's, we allow the ISDs to make the decision, and understand and govern their space.
Governing space and voting rights. It seemed like, folks down in Austin seem to be governing our space, which means that we can't do certain things, such as we did on legal standpoint with Michael Todd, one of our companion shows, about how they're making it a felony to give someone water or to assist someone in voting. Give me your standpoint on that. How can you help us stand up against these restrictive voting laws? So
unless we have majority in the House, we won't be changing the voting laws. The House wins and majority vote wins. So those laws will be in effect until we have a more balanced legislature and able to change those laws. In the meantime, we can do the best that we can and actually mobilize as many people as we can who are registered to vote to get out and vote. Just because they made it, more difficult doesn't mean we don't have the numbers. Doesn't mean we can't be more effective. Doesn't mean we can't elect more Democrats in the House and across the, across the land, down ballot as well.
That's what I'm talking about. Instead of, I'm gonna wait till she leave to say this because I don't want to get her in trouble. But let me get myself in trouble right now. Democrats, we cry too much. Yes, we cry too much about stuff. Okay, they changed it. Okay, fine. That's the same thing. Hey, they changed the rule. Beat them at the new rule. That's all you got to do. I'm not saying you ain't mad. You can't complain about it. But it's only so much complaining you can do. You got to do better with that. All right, you didn't say that. I said that.
Okay.
Okay.
Look, I'll add on to it.
You want to add on? Okay, good.
We are industrious people. That's who we are. You make a rule, we figure out how to get it, how to make our way still.
You said we're industrious people. Okay.
So, I think as Democrats, that's what we should do. We should really focus on, there's a big, push, and I'm not saying don't register people to vote, not at all, but I think the push should be greater on people who are registered who don't vote.
That's true. Yeah, because that's what we end up doing. We say we registered to vote.
Yeah.
We register to vote, and then you have to vote a registration card at home, then you don't vote.
Yeah. Where are the people at who are voting? There are hundreds of thousands of people that do not vote on a regular basis at every election.
Which is what happened during the last election, in which, 76 million people voted for Donald Trump. How come you didn't correct me, man? I wasn't supposed to say his name. I made it through 5 successive weeks without saying the former occupant of the White House that was impeached twice. That's the way I referred to him. And this time I said it. I know why. These people walking right across me, moving stuff out. I feel like, and then we'll get back to it. I feel like, you ever been to a restaurant, Tracy, when, you're there.
It's time to go and they start
cleaning up.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to look so bad around there and to look to see, because I saw somebody walk across there carrying like heavy stuff. It's like, what did they carry? But what we're carrying right now is these voter restrictive laws right now. And 76 million people voted for the former occupant of the White House who was impeached twice. So, and that was a large amount of people that voted for him. He said, no one has ever polled 76 million before. Then he conveniently forgets the guy who polled 81 million that same election.
Yeah, you lost.
You lost.
Yeah,
you don't
if
say that.
No one ever voted that much, and you lost.
You lost.
That's not how that works.
It's like saying we scored 10 points in the first quarter. But you end up losing 42-10.
Yeah.
You lost.
I mean, there's just, and there were so many innovative ways that we had come up with, to increase voter turnout. 24-hour voting. That's just a convenience. As long as it's safe, as long as, people are safe being able to vote 24 hours and they are casting one ballot, what difference does it make? Allow that to happen. But of course, when your numbers are low, you want to try to squash the other player.
All right, so we're going to get out and vote and everything. And
yes, please. Please go vote. Please go vote. I was talking to a young lady earlier today, and she can't vote. And I had asked her to volunteer on my campaign, and she says, I don't think it's, right for me to work on campaigns or volunteer or work on a campaign when I can't vote. And I had to tell her, the elected official still governs your life.
Right.
You're here.
Right. As long as you pay taxes, you still pay taxes.
Yeah. The elected officials still govern your life as long as you sit in the United States of America, whether you can vote or not, because we have a bunch of people that are not voting. Your life is still governed by the elected officials, by the elected body. So I just encourage everyone who is registered to vote to go vote. All the excuses that we make not to vote are just that, excuses. You don't want to call your fellow man lazy, but we're high stakes now. This is high stakes game, and you've got to be out there voting and supporting each other.
Okay, so it sounds like a good opportunity for a closing since we're at the high stakes game.
Yeah.
Tell us, election time. And what can we
Yes.
do?
Early vote begins Valentine's Day. So love your candidate, love your vote, love your country, love your state, and go vote on Valentine's Day, February 14th and through the 25th. I don't think there's any voting on the 21st because I think it's President's Day. It's somebody's day. President's Day. President's Day. And then Election Day is March 1st.
March 1st.
This is a primary election. It is very important. There's on the ballot. There are county seats, state seats. There's just a lot on the ballot that you want to be a part of. You want to be a part of this movement. It's very important that we get together. We can become a community that votes.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Tracy Scott. We appreciate you. For Texas House, I'm reading it. District 92. Vote early, February 14th through the 25th. The primary election is March 1st. March to the polls on March 1st. All right, thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
No problem.
Thanks.
Let's play some of my drops. Play Howard Scott, The War, because we're going to war to
John
make
Crusoe.
sure. Right, and John Crusoe. Thank you for reminding them. And John Crusoe. But we're going to war to make sure that they don't restrict our voting rights. So, let's play those drops. We'll be right back.
This is John Crusoe, your Democratic candidate for District Attorney for Dallas County. Thank you to the commish and Ed Gray and the commish radio show.
Hi, this is Howard Scott from The Howard Scott Show, coming to you from beautiful Arlington, Texas on Fishbowl Radio. You can catch me every Wednesday from 6 to 7, and we play all this war music, and you get to hear some of the songs that I wrote when I was in the band War, how I created the songs, the stories behind it, and we start off with the blues. You have a good time talking to me, so tune in every Wednesday from 6 to 7, catch The Howard Scott Show. We having a whole lot of fun on Fishbowl Radio.
Jump in.